Okay, so do allow me to give a brief intro for our first speaker today, Dr. Poon. So Dr. Poon currently is an associate professor from Monash University, also the director of graduate program. So she served as editor for several Scopus journals, as well as an editorial board. So Dr. Poon has published in top-tier journals, such like the Pacific Basin Finance Journal, Energy Economics, and also Applied Economics. And she also secured several international grants and government grants. So without any delay, so let us welcome Dr. Poon. So Dr. Poon, shall I pass the floor to you? Thanks.
Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Tan, for your very nice introduction about me. So let me first share my screen. Dr. Tan, are you able to see my share screen?
Yes, Dr. Poon. Yes, I'm able to see. Thanks.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank Prof. Tan for inviting me to talk about this topic on survival tips, research and publication experiences. So we were formerly colleagues. So I left MMU for more than 10 years. So it is actually a very good experience to come back to give a talk to MMU staff. Right. So before I start, I actually would like to emphasize that this is purely a sharing sessions. So some of these are purely my own views or opinions. Now let's start. Now I believe most of you here, you're a researcher, you're a scholar, right? You're an academician. That's why we all need to publish our work. And I also trust that you have experience to send your work to journal articles, journal, and so on. And why articles get rejected? The general rule is when we look at your paper, of course, firstly, the editor will just browse through your abstract. In your abstract, it's very brief, right? Sometimes it's only constrained by 250 words. Sometimes even less than that. It could be constrained by just 150 up to 250 words. It depends on journals. And first thing that I will look at is in terms of the contribution. Does the paper sufficiently show contribution to the body of knowledge or not? That's the first thing. The second thing, after looking at the abstract, I will then look at the introduction of the paper. In the introduction, you have to actually cover the framework. It is not that you have to show the diagram, the figure, okay, what are the conceptual framework. No, you don't have to, but you have to elaborate a little bit in the text under introduction section. If the editor feels that it's worth continue to read, then the editor will browse through your research framework, your conceptual framework, whereby sometimes, not all the paper, but sometimes we are able to see the conceptual framework in a diagram. Then, even in the abstract, we are able to view the methods that you want to use. So under methodology, we don't expect you to put lengthy elaboration about methodology, but at least a sentence to talk about what method or approach you use in your study. And through the abstract, we are able to identify your writing style. Okay? Are they writing in a proper structure? Are they well organized? Okay? So those are the first impression that we can get. Firstly, of course, from the abstract. So here, this slide, I show a secret formula. In general, we all agree that for whatever paper, you should be able to identify what is the issues that you want to talk about. What is the unique problem? What is the research problem, research question, in other words, that you want to deliver? Of course, all this should be backed by literature review, right? And in the literature review, you should have already included the updated literature review so that when the reader reads your stuff, then they're able to identify, oh, this is the gap in the literature. If you review your journal articles, you review only up to 2015, for example, and you submit this piece of paper to any journal, then the first thing that the reviewer may ask you is, why do you stop reviewing the papers up to 2015? Right now it's 2020. Where is the 5 years gap? What are the available studies that have been conducted? And what are the findings? So they are more interested to know the updated information related to the topic that you are doing. So once you are able to show the updated literature, basically you are telling us that how to fill the gap. Where is the gap in the literature? Then you are now doing this to fill the gap. So what is new in your study is extremely important. You have to point it out. Because originally, you already started by saying that your paper aims to investigate something. So then you have to tell what is new in this aspect. Isn't it this area have been done by some other people? Your paper cannot be totally new, right? It must be someone have done similar study in the area, in the same topic as what you are doing. So you have to explain the questions. How do you try to answer this question? How your study is different from the rest? Or you may be able to tell your study is basically is the extension of another study. Those actually reflecting is what is new in your study. For example, you may say traditional approach may give some aspect, however, it is insufficient in what sense? So you are now using this method because your method is, okay, talk about what are the benefits of your method. Or you may say, are issue A that you are now examining, are they different from the past? If they are different, how are they different? And next, you have to link theory to your empirical work. Every paper should be accompanied by a strong theory. Every topic should be supported by the underpinning theory. No matter what discipline are we talking about. Okay, it could be economics discipline, it could be finance discipline, or it could be management or marketing discipline. For management and marketing discipline, you normally will have construct, right? Constructs. And there are many different items to measure the unobserved constructs. Those constructs cannot appear just like that based on what is in your mind. It has to be supported by the underpinning theory. So you have to link the theory to your work. So even though here I listed this is a secret formula, but does it mean that once you have fulfilled all those criteria, your paper will be accepted? It's not for sure. Why? From the MIS Quarterly, published in the year 2009, volume 33, issue number 3. Why do journals accept your papers? There are generally 2 classifications here. Number 1, required elements. Number 2, enhancing elements. Under required element is something like compulsory, the core things that you have to include. First is ask yourself, is your paper already included accepting idea, issues? Number 2, is it non-trivial research questions? Number 3, are you doing something new, something popular? Number 4, are you using sufficient theory? So these are the required ones. The enhancing one will be, do you follow the recognizable formula? You use model. So is this model well justified? Or is this model something new? You adapted from somewhere, then after that you have included some other new variables. If you do so, justify why do you include the new variables. I would say it is not wise to include too many variables as your explanatory variables. You can include as control variables, but it is not wise to include everything. For whichever variables that you include, you have to justify why you want to include. The justification, if you put like past research, past study in this area, they are also including these few variables as control variables. So this is not a good justification. You can justify in this way, but this is not a good one. A good one should be you link each of these so-called control variables. How each of these is linked to your topic, you explain. Then whether you sufficiently cover your literature or not, the key literature. For example, let's say for economics, right? We have a neoclassical economics. And this neoclassical economics, basically, people will invoke the spirits of Adam Smith and his invisible hand metaphor, which appear in The Wealth of Nations that he published in the year 1776. Now, for the researcher or scholar like us, if we want to touch about the view related to capitalists, then we will try to link it back to the neoclassical economist Adam Smith views. So same thing, whatever you do, you have to link it back to the theory, the original theory, who invented or who developed the theory. And now we are only trying to extend it, try to modify it a little bit, try to extend it a little bit, right? Or like some of you, you may have done some research using technology acceptance model, right? It's the TAM model. And TAM model originally developed by Fred Davis in the year 1986. So those who use TAM model, you should cite TAM developed by Davis 1986. Right? So with the same explanation, you should do the same, no matter which theory you use. Please try to identify who was the first one who developed the so-called theory. Okay, next is the piece of work should be clean. Now, when we say clean, that means in terms of the appearance, we will try to avoid grammatical errors, as that is, of course, what we want to do. But English is not our first language, right? So we know this is actually our drawback, right? But we try to keep it to the minimal mistake. Okay, so sometimes if you send to very top tier journal, you may need to spend a little bit of money to ask for English editing services. Now, next is about the methods that we use. If you observe carefully, for whichever topics that we examine, there are many different methods that we can use. What is more important is if you justify and say that I'm going to use this new method, then first thing in the editor's view as well as in the reviewer's mind is, how do you show your new method is superior compared to the old one? All methods have been there for so many years. They have been well established, validated, they are reliable. Based on what sense you say your new method is effectively used, is trustable, is valid. So then it is your ability to prove that using so many robustness tests to prove that your new method is superior compared to the past. It may be you need to use other old method as well and do comparison compared to the methods that you are doing. Okay. And the second last under enhancing elements is not contradict the work of major mover. Now, it is extremely hard for us to justify or defend our results if our result is contradict to the theory, especially. It's very difficult. Okay. I think even top journal, they may not easily accept your idea if your finding is contradict to the theory. Well, what if your study, your result finding show that the finding is contradict to author A study in different contexts? That is possible. What you need to do is you just need to justify in the context that you are doing. Your context is different from the other author, right? They may find variable A is significant in influencing the outcome variable, but your study using the same variable shows that it is not significant. But that's fine because you are using in different contexts. What you need to do is justify in your context. That's possible. Okay, then after that, we will look at your sample. Now, sample is actually no magic number, right? No magic number. So for economics, finance, what is the minimum sample size? Well, there is no magic number. Okay, but you can actually see, even though those articles published in Tier A under management or marketing discipline, even if their sample size is only 150, they are also able to publish it. Okay, but it will be always safer when you send out or distribute your questionnaire to the respondents. Try to send it to more respondents, because you have to always remember some of them, they do not actually fill in all sessions for you. Okay, so the usable one might be less than what you expect. So it is always safer to distribute more than less. If you have any questions, feel free to just shout out loud, okay? Don't worry. Okay, next slide. I would like to talk about hot tips from an editor. My view is try always cite at least one paper from the journal to which you are submitting. If you already identified, you already targeted one journal, okay, then please cite at least one paper that already published in that journal. This is to show that you are aware of the key issues that already published in that journal, okay, and you do some citation, you talk about the key debates in that issue. Now, when you search for that particular journal, you already identified and targeted the journal, so you know which journal exactly you want to send to. Please understand the ethos of the journal before you submit. When I say understand the ethos, it is like what philosophy or what mission, what is the aim, and what is the scope of that journal. That is extremely important. Okay? For example, if that journal is related to purely on theoretical work, but your paper is more on empirical work, then you should not waste your time. You should not target that journal anymore, right? So you have to know the ethos, the philosophy of that journal. For example, another example that I can give you is Corporate Governance and International Review. That is Tier A journal, right? Now, when you look at the mission of Corporate Governance and International Review, it has already stated there, exchange of information, insight, and knowledge based on both theoretical development and practical experience. So they need both theoretical and practical experience. So then you look at your own paper, you read one more time. Has your paper actually talked about practical side? Most of you will say yes, right? If you do empirical work, most of you will say yes. Because at the conclusion part, you will talk about what is the implication of the study. It could be managerial implication, it could be practitioner implication, it could be policy implication, right? So therefore you will say, well, I have done that. I have included practical experience. But bear in mind, the mission of Corporate Governance and International Review also talk about they need both theoretical and practical side. So then you relook. If you do not have strong theoretical background underpinning your study, don't send to this journal. So you have two options basically. Number one, enrich, include the theoretical development in your study. Alternative 2, send to some other journals. Okay, so that's the reason why I say know the ethos of the journal very well. Now, under point number 2, the second part I actually put there, cites the work of the members of the editorial board. Now, if you know that editor or the editorial board member, one of those, for example, is very well known, well versed in doing that area, please cite it. Now, of course, we are not asking you cite all the works that this editorial board member have done. We are not asking you to do so, but at least those highly cited, those really relevant to your study, please cite it. Now, the third point is don't get upset with test rejection. Actually, we should pray, we should feel happy when we get very prompt test rejection, because it is just like save us for a few months of waiting. Right? Sometimes it could be we wait for, let's say, 6 months. Okay, I experienced before, waited for 6 months, ended up only test rejection. It's test rejection. It's not even passed through to the reviewers yet. You can imagine after 6 months. Okay, so therefore don't get upset with test rejection. Okay, you should feel happy with that. Okay, and next is, you don't need to do everything that the reviewer suggests, but you do need to address all of their suggestions. This point is very important. I highlighted here, I put in bold. Reason? When you receive the decision letter from the editor, and normally the editor will attach together with the reviewer's feedback and comments. Minimum must be 1 reviewer's comment. There is no maximum. It could be 4, it could be 5, but the general, the norms will be 2 or 3. Now, so most of the comments, okay, you and I as the authors, we will address it. But sometimes when we come to certain items that we feel, oh, this is so difficult, I don't know how to do it. I also don't want to reject, I don't want to say it out, I want to reject, I don't want to do that. So I skip that item. Now, if you think in that way, you make a very big mistake. Now, you try to imagine, out of, let's say, 3 reviewers, including the editor also reviewing the article actually, okay? Let's say 2 reviewers plus the editors, 3 persons reading your article. Even though it's not 100% matching with all the items, all the comments that they have put, but for some information, some items that everybody's agree upon, it should be shown. It should be shown already in there. So if you try to skip certain items, you thought they don't know, but actually they relook at the comments that they have sent to you earlier on. So they will try to match, have you addressed this? Have you addressed that? And so on. It will be definitely not nice if you have been caught for not addressing their suggestion. It is extremely a bad impression. Right? So please address all of the suggestion. Now, bear in mind, you see under point number 4, the first part that I put, I say, you don't need to do everything that they suggest. You don't have to do everything, that's right. But you do need to address their suggestion. You have to say, for example, they ask you to recollect the data, for example. Okay, they say your data stopped at year 2018, and now it's 2020, for example. Okay, they ask you to please collect additional 2 more years of data, get it updated until recent one. So you feel that this is a bit too much. So you address the suggestion. You say that we are aware of your suggestion. However, data availability is only up to 2018, which we already covered in our study. You get what I mean? You cannot ignore what they say, you should not ignore. So you address and say that, justify the reason why you do not follow as what they have suggested, right? Okay, next. When you receive a rejection letter, of course, nobody likes to be rejected, correct? Understood. So you are allowed to grieve, you are allowed to feel sad, but you don't have to take longer than a day, 2 days, 3 days, and so on, right? It's okay, get rejected lah. This journal doesn't like your style of writing, go for another journal. There are so many journals. Huh? But if you target for high tier top journal, in your mind you're thinking, I want to spend X hour working on this paper for a top journal. But actually your X hour is insufficient. It should be X times 3 hours, then only is sufficient, right? What is in the mind of the editor? We receive so many papers, so many submissions, and your paper is basically competing with some others. And we are all trying to race for the scarce resource, which is time. Whoever got it published first in the same area, in the same topic, then that person will be the winner. So we are rushing for it, right? Everybody's trying to rush for it. So because of time constraint, everyone hopes that we want to avoid rejection. So now how to avoid rejection? It's extremely hard. Across disciplines, no matter is economics, finance, marketing, management, or whatever, acceptance rate in general, the norm would be 25%. So if you want a paper per year, per paper acceptance rate is 25%. So if you want a paper per year, so make sure that you have some other papers in the pipeline. Could be 4 or 5, right? Top journal, for example, AER, American Economics Review, JPE, Journal of Political Economy, QJE, Quarterly Journal of Economics, RES, the Review of Economic Studies, the acceptance rate is even lower, 3 to 5%. Those are econs journal. What about finance journal? JBF, Journal of Banking and Finance, 10 to 15%. JOF, Journal of Finance. RFS, Review of Financial Studies, 8 to 10%. IRFA, International Review of Financial Analysis, 10 to 15%. So all these top journals, their acceptance rate is even lower than 25%. Right? So it doesn't matter, right? So now what we want is how to avoid test rejection. So long as we can pass through test rejection, then at least we still have hope. So now this slide, we will talk about how to avoid test rejection. Number 1, the aim. If the editor you think will handle the paper has written relevant material on the issue, include them, like what I say just now. Include at least one. Not all, okay? Include the one that is highly cited. Do not start citing everything they have ever written, okay? That is important. Number 2, be a contribution. Each paper is a separate communication. Be clear, one idea, one paper. Don't crowd the paper with too many tiers, too many trails. Don't make it a confusion. You should not try to put it in too abstract way until you want to some sort like direct the reader, the reviewers, the editors to guess what you want to do actually. The true narrative of the story should be clearly articulated in your paper, in introduction especially. So one paper, one idea. When you talk about should we go for the depth or should we go for the breadth? Well, I would say go for in-depth analysis. You look at one issue, you look at what idea you want to deliver, After that, you investigate, okay? First research question is this. Second research question is dive in from the first research question. So you study in-depth analysis in that way. Okay, next is be fit. Read the aim, the scope, the mission of the journal. If you are unsure, I have read the mission, the objective, the aim, the scope of that journal in the website, but I'm still not sure. I'm not sure whether the study that I'm working on is it follow the theme or not? Is it in the theme or not? So you can email to the editor. For example, you can say, I'm recently working on something. I'm not sure if this paper fits into the journal. The title of my paper is something, and the abstract is attached. Thank you. Looking forward for your reply. Right? So you may check with the editors. Next, be legible. English, good English. Try to read out loud. When you read out loud, you listen to the cadence. Sometimes when you read out loud, you will notice that, hey, this is hanging, this sentence is hanging. So do something on that, rectify it. You may need to ask somebody to prove it your article. Someone that knows your area well. So if you're from the finance discipline, don't get someone from law to read your stuff. If you're somebody from law discipline, don't get someone from science to read your stuff. Get somebody who has the knowledge in your discipline to read your stuff so that they can give you more constructive feedback. Be ethical. Academician, please be ethical. Do not submit the same piece of work to 2 different journals at the same time. Okay? Be ethical. Next is be distinctive. Now, we noticed that as academicians, sometimes we present our paper in a conference. Then after that, we will revise it a little bit, then we will send it for journal. But please ensure that the version that you send for a journal is distinctive from the versions that you presented in the conference. Because if the percentage of similarities is too huge, that is considered as self-plagiarism. All publishers today, they have cross-check similarity threshold. So please be aware of this. Okay, next, be relevant. Always, I believe you heard about, hey, your topic, you do Malaysia case. Why you do Malaysia case? Who will be our audience later? Which journal you want to target? Okay, I heard about this many times. But trust me, you will still get paper published using Malaysia context. What is important is you have to attract the international reader. Why it's interesting to care about Malaysia context? Local context is important because there's a big problem here. There's a big research questions here. So to make generalization, we have to make it clear why local matters here. Again, justify your work. Why do this context justify? And be complete. Have you included all the required elements? Have you included all the enhancing elements? Okay, so ask yourself this question. Is it a complete piece of work or not? Okay. Now, so far, any questions? We have actually talked about how to avoid rejection, desk rejection. Okay, the hot tips are from the editor. So far, any questions?
No question, Miss.
Thank you. So we should proceed. Thanks for the response. Okay, now we look at the things that we should consider when we want to respond to the reviewers or the editor's comment, right? So, number 1, appraise each comments of the review panel with open mind. Now, when we first receive the letter, the decision letter from the editor, sometimes we tend to feel a bit emotional. But try to avoid expressing emotional reaction, especially the negative one, to the editors and the reviewers who actually critically criticize your manuscript. At least you have to remember, they criticize you, but they give you a chance to revise your paper. You should be grateful. There are many times, especially those high-tier journals, they criticize you, they never give you any revision opportunity. Okay? But under that condition, I will also feel grateful, even though if my paper got rejected, because at least I got very fruitful comments. And based on those comments, I try to improve my paper. After improve my paper, I send to even better journal. Okay, so my own mindset is, no matter which journal you send to, so long as you get constructive feedback, I will feel very grateful to it. Okay? So when we first receive the let's say the rejection decision, for example, so the reviewers have put so many items over there, so many negative comments over there, and say that you have not done this, not done that, this is unclear, that is missing, grammatical errors, things like that. So sometimes you will be very frustrated. You will say, hey, this reviewer number 2 is too harsh. Okay, too harsh, too unfriendly, okay, too nasty, too disgusting. Then maybe you will start to draft a letter sent to the editor, and complaints about the reviewers are having all those so-called harsh, awful, disgusting, unfriendly, whatever that you can think of. Sometimes the author may also pinpoint certain items that the reviewers have actually pointed out, and the author may send it to the editor and say that, I think the reviewer number 2 is something like, I think the reviewer number 2 does not really understand my topic at all. One of those items that the reviewers too commented was, okay, something. I have actually expressed this information in paragraph number 1 on which page. I stated there very clearly. If you do so, what will happen next? Then they will go and check for the respective paragraph, which page, which line that you emphasize. They will cross-check. So you identify so specifically, that means you are very sure that what you are doing is right, and you are now saying that the reviewers misinterpreted what you're saying. If you're really right, then it's fine. But what if your write-up is not that clear? You may interpret like that. You may put one sentence in there, but in your figures, in your tables, you put differently. So there is no matching in between. Who do you want the reviewer, or which part do you want the reviewers to trust is correct? Is it the one that's shown in the tables, figures, or is it the one that just show by using one line in your text? So which one is correct? So you have to be very careful when you write some so-called complaint letters to the editor, saying that the reviewers have done this not right, that not right. Very dangerous. Okay? Don't feel offended, please. Do not feel offended. Even those prolific authors, they always publish in high-tier top journals. They also receive rejection, and it is very common. Their rejection just will be given one simple letter and say that, okay, your paper is not suitable for this journal. Okay, it will be rejected. That's it. Do they give any reason for that? No. The reason is only it's not suitable. But do they tell you how to refine it, how to revise it? No. Right? So therefore, so long as reviewers have given you some feedback, some detailed items, be grateful. Okay? Don't feel offended. They don't know you. Always remember, they don't know you. It is not that they select your paper and review it. They don't know you. It's the editor who assign, okay, this paper, you review. This paper, reviewer 2. This paper, reviewer 3. So they have no right to choose, hey, this is my friend, so I review. Hey, this one I don't know, I don't want to review. No. All right, so don't feel offended. And none of them actually receive even 1 cent from the journal for doing this work. Right? They are using their precious time to read your stuff and give you comments. That's why I say, be grateful, right? Be grateful to them. Now, we are all human, right? We are not expert in every areas. I myself study economics, so I'm actually attached to economics discipline. Even so, I dare not to tell people I'm an expert in all the economic discipline. I couldn't, because I have not mastered every single thing in the economics discipline. So, is it very strange to misconstrue the content? Is it impossible to misunderstand or misinterpret the content? It is very common to misconstrue the content, particularly if the authors have put some unconcise information over there. Remember, editor and the reviewers, they are your preliminary readers. They read your stuff first. Then they give you comment and ask you to revise it. Their final aim is try to improve your write-up. At the end of the day, if your paper got it published in that journal, is your name and your co-author's name will appear on that paper. Who cares who was the editor at the time? Who was the reviewers for this paper at the time? Nobody cares. Right? So if when you send your paper to the reviewers or the editors to read your stuff, they are preliminary readers. They read. If they don't understand, they ask. When they ask you to give you an opportunity to revise, then feel thankful. Okay? They are only assessing your work from their own standpoint. Right? Sometimes they even need to spend their time to Google search this area, who have done what is new in this area, and so on. So, not only readership, we also have to look at the theme. Does your paper fit to the mission of the journal, fit to the scope of the journal? So sometimes when you receive an editor's decision and say that your paper does not fit to this journal, it doesn't mean that your paper in terms of quality is poor. No, don't misunderstood. When we say your paper does not fit to the journal, that means it does not fit to the theme. Okay, perhaps like what I mentioned just now, okay, this journal emphasize on both theoretical and practical experience. So if your paper is purely qualitative study, it does not match with it does not fit to the journal. Get the meaning? So don't feel disappointed sometimes. As I mentioned, you have to know the ethos of the journal very well before you submit to that particular journal. Now, let's say right now you receive a revision opportunity. So now, sit down together with your co-author. Started to look at the strategy. Before you revise, look at all those comments. Discuss, sit down together and discuss what strategy you want to use to tackle the first comment, second comment, and so on. Try to evaluate each comment. Don't skip. Evaluate each comment. Don't skip. All comments from the reviewer's feedback should be addressed, as I mentioned just now. Indicates clearly what have you done, what have you changed. Then you craft the response. Okay, you craft the response. But sometimes you know yourself very well. Once you receive the editor feedback, editor decision, and once you look at the detailed reviewers' comments, you may perceive that some of them, some of the items or certain reviewers, the way they write is nasty. The way they write the comment is disgusting. It's very demotivated. But if you pass the same comment to your other colleagues to read out, to your other co-authors to read out, they may feel that, hey, this is only unkind comment, this is only unpleasant comment, but it's still okay, feasible, we can do it, right? So when you are having that kind of very negative emotion, don't look at the comment, close your inbox or whatsoever, step back and reflect. Step back and reflect. Okay? Don't feel frustrated and immediately drop an email and complain. Don't do that. Step back, close everything, go outside, go for a walk. After that, after 1 week, even 1 week is fine. Come back, open your inbox, and look at the detail of each of these comments. You actually notice why they give you that feedback. You will change your mind. You actually found out the reason why. Hey, yeah, really, how come I put that in the sentence? It's unclear. Okay? Okay, this is also important. Do not resist making modification. Reviewers may suggest you to do a lot of new things. You and your co-author need to decide how to respond in a thoughtful manner to any call for additional new things that they suggest. For example, they may ask you to get additional data collection. Then you plan ahead. This is something considered as difficult task. It is almost like you rewrite the whole thing. If not the whole thing, it is rewrite 70% of your paper, right? So perhaps if they ask you to add additional new analysis, then you may need to include some other people that have the knowledge in that area. Need to get help from them. So then after that, you may need to think of, hey, how should we include that expert in our co-authorship or not? Or should we pay, or how? So you decide among the team, the group. But what I want to say is, please don't resist making the modification. You do it if it is still manageable. You do it if it can be done. But if it cannot be done, say so. Reason out why it cannot be done. Particularly now. If you receive the editor or reviewer's feedback asking you to collect more data, then you may justify and say that now is CMCO in Malaysia. So you talk about the reason, justify. You actually can't conduct interview or whatever, right? So you give reason, they can understand. Now, something that you can control updates the current literature, okay? Add in more relevant theoretical framework, send out for proofreading, okay? Ensure that grammar checking is all done, error-free, okay? For all the English check and so on. All those are within your control. All those outside your control is, for example, extra data collection, extra tests that you never heard of, you never tried before. Okay, those are outside your control. But again, do it if you can, right? But if you can't, just need to explain why. What about this one? I'm not sure whether you have received this type of comments or not. Let's say there are 2 or 3 reviewers, but there are contradictory comments given by these 2 or 3 reviewers on the same issue. Then you will say, hey, how? Should I listen to reviewer A or reviewer B? So this condition happened before. It is not uncommon. So what you need to do is, my view, okay, my view. What you need to do is you explain to the reviewer the direction that you have chosen. For example, reviewer A asks you to expand the discussion of this thing. Okay, the discussion of issue A, for example. Reviewer B say that your discussion of this already very lengthy, please cut short. So then you ask yourself, which one will benefit to the reader? Is it expansion of the explanation, or is it trim down the contents? Then again, it has to depends on your revised version. Is it already extensive information you already included in a write-up or not? If already extensive, then you may choose to trim down. But if when you read for the second round, you feel that it's insufficient, okay, you should add in this on top of that. So then you always remember who is the reader. What should you do in order to benefit the reader? Add in or trim down. So you explain in the letter later on. Your response to the reviewer's comment. You explain, okay? And you say that, okay, this comment, the same comment has been raised by two reviewers, reviewers A and B. Reviewer A asks us to extend the information on A. Reviewer B asks us to trim down the information on A. After serious consideration, we have decided to, okay, tell what is the decision. The reasons being, okay, link it to the readers, right? Okay. Then, let's say right now you already have decided, okay, you choose one direction. You trim down, for example, you trim down. Then now you submit it to the journal, okay, the revision version. But if the reviewers continue to express the same concern about the direction that you are taking, that you have taken the direction of trim down, then please consult the handling editor. Let the editor decide on that. Let the editor advise on that. Okay? But you don't have to worry, so long as your justification is nicely done, it does not really matter. Okay? Now, writing response letter. Your response letter, okay, normally it is quite clear. If you try to put in two different columns, first column, you put what are the reviewer's comments. So you list down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from reviewer 1. Then reviewer 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for example. The second column, you write how do you respond to it. What have you done to respond to each of these comments? So by looking at this, it's very clear-cut. What have you done to rectify the problem? So you have to articulate how each comment was addressed, leading to the modification in the revised manuscript. Okay. Like I say, you have to address all comments that the reviewers have given to you. Don't leave out. If you leave out, you have to explain why. Okay. Give a convincing explanation and say, why do you leave unaddressed that comment? What's the reason? Don't hide it. Don't hide and assume that the editor will never check, the reviewers will never check. You are wrong. They are very sharp. They will try to grab back the same types of mistakes that other people have done. Have you actually revised it accordingly? They are very sharp, very observant. Okay. Try to answer their question, follow the sequence number that they have presented while they send the reviews report to you. All right. Right. What I normally do is, when I send it, the revised version, to the journal, or as an editor, what I prefer to see is, I prefer to see the revised version of the manuscript. They either highlight it, they italic it, they indent it, or they show track changes. This is a simpler way for us to identify, yes, you have done a lot of changes, right? This will add marks for that, is impression mark. Okay. All your responses should be polite, should be respectful. Don't be defensive, don't be confrontational. Don't blame the reviewers. Don't say, I think I have done this. You suggested me to do A. I think I have done this. I put it in my original manuscript on page what, paragraph what, line number what. If you do so, you are too defensive. Instead of saying that, why not put in a polite way and respectful way and say that, thank you for your suggestion. I have highlighted this session, this portion on which page, which line, which paragraph. That's it. Okay? Now, during the first submission, we always make mistake. Try to omit deficiencies. We are not doing good enough during the first submission. And thank you for your suggestion. Okay, we are now revising this part, okay, in the revised manuscript on which page. Now, some of you may prefer to write a letter to the editor as well, even though this is not compulsory, okay? But some of you may like to write a letter to the editor. You express your gratitude to the editor for giving you a chance to revise the paper. You emphasize on what have you done in your revised paper, how important is your study, how it contributes in terms of theory, how it contributes in terms of practitioner implication. Now, if there are disagreement with the comments from the reviewers, contradictory comments, so in your letter to the editor, you may emphasize on that. You may explicate how you respond to the disagreement to the editor. It helps, right? A summary, in a nutshell, accept the blame. If the reviewers pointed out to you, okay, more than 10 items over there pointed out to you, you have not done this and that, this is missing, something like that, apologize for not making it clear. And thank you for pointing this out. So accept the blame. No harm. Be polite, respectful for all reviewers. Remember, reviewers, they only look at readership. Their goal is to make sure that all work are accessible to all readers. When readers read it, they understand what you are trying to deliver. And of course, miscommunications tend to happen. Okay? And it is possible to misinterpret what you are thinking. The same line, the same statement, we may interpret differently. So miscommunications are possible. If you perceive that the reviewers have given you the comments in a rude, awful, critic way, you, as the author, when you respond to the comments, you can control. You don't need to be equally respond in the rude, critic way. You don't have to, right? So please be respectful and be polite in responding to their comments, right? So I think that's all from me. Prof. Tan, pass back to you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Poon. Right,
You're welcome.
question from the floor. You can just type your questions, queries on the chat box, or you can just on your mic and ask your question directly to Dr. Poon. Very informative from Tan Wei Xiang. So Wei Xiang, any questions you would like to pose to Dr. Poon?
No question, Miss. Very nice, very nice. Thank you, thank you.
Thanks. So, Dr. Poon, I totally agree with you. The first time when I sent to a very top tier journal, within 24 hours, the first thing I scared the most is that I'm going to get my front door rejection. That's rejection so far. And it's very painful. But that is a very good lesson in which that will motivate us to write a better and to hope for the high tiering paper. So in-depth analysis will be definitely a very crucial point in order for us to publish in a high tier journal.
Yeah, exactly. So don't be afraid, be brave, be bold to send to top tier journal. Or perhaps we may be able to get some constructive feedback from them, okay, hopefully. But normally, if under desk rejection, we won't be able to get any constructive feedback.
Yeah, exactly. The desk rejection means that is either our scope is not fit, or okay, so we may just say that take it easy and then we try to send for another journal. So there are so many journals never give up our hope.
Yeah, correct. And sometimes don't feel surprised, don't be surprised. If we send to Tier B journal, sometimes we even receive more feedback compared to we send to Tier A journal.
Exactly. So any question from the floor? Okay, Dr. Poon, did you see the question? Dr. Poon, Kazi asked you a question. Could you please clarify or define a bit more about the meaning of, Dr. Poon, did you see that? On your chat box, yes.
Chat box. Kasi.
Yeah, correct.
Non-trivial research questions. Okay, right. The research question should be something really important that is of the interest of everyone in general. Okay, so your research question should be go straight to the point, right? May I know, Kasi, what is your discipline? What is your discipline, Kasi? Is it in econs, finance, marketing, or what?
Kazi? Technology management.
Technology management. So is it under management then? Yes, okay, good, thank you. So, Kasi, like under management, your research questions got to be go straight to the point. Nowadays, they are not only talking about any relationship between X and Y. What they want to do is any mediator effect between X and Y, any moderating effect between or interaction terms, any interaction effects between X and Y. So you have to talk about if you examine the interaction or moderator's role between X and Y. So you have to tell why is it so important to examine this thing. Okay, so in your research question, you have to talk about why is it so important to test whether, let's say, M1 is the moderator to explain the relationship between X1 and Y1, something like that, right? If that is your main or your final interest, so your final interest is about moderator, it's about interaction. So go straight directly when you explain your research question. Don't only just talk about, the research question number one, the relationship between X1 and Y1, but that is not the trivial one. The trivial one is you want to examine the interaction effect of this M on X1 and Y1. So go straight to the point. Get the meaning, Kasi? Okay, good, thank you.
I believe that Lee Chui Liang also asked another question. Dear Dr. Poon, do you have any idea on where we can find the acceptance rate of the journal?
From the website, from the impact factors, sometimes you're able to retrieve those info. Okay, but in general, we agree that the acceptance rate, the norm is 25%. In general, I mean those tier B journals, on average, 25%. Even some conferences, they have hooked to certain special issue of the journal. The acceptance rate, they still mention that it's 25%. So therefore, it does not guarantee that your paper is being accepted to present in the conference. It doesn't mean that your paper will get accepted in publishing in their journal. Not necessarily, because acceptance rate is only 25%. It is not 100% acceptance. Okay.
Okay, Dr. Poon, another question for Dr. Tan, from Dr. Tan Wei Cheng. I have a question about publishing the conceptual paper. May I get the advice from you, any specific topic to get the conceptual paper published?
So, Dr. Tan, I believe your area is in marketing.
Yes.
For marketing discipline, for marketing discipline, I'm not too sure, okay, which journal outlets you can target for conceptual paper. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, Dr. Poon, you're one of your very best friend, Dr. Chong Lily. Okay, so she would like to somehow know, can you share your strategy to select a right journal to publish apart from matching the theme?
Okay, thank you, Prof. Chong, for your questions. All right, what I normally do, how do I select which journal I want to target for? Okay, I will normally refer to the reference list that I have cited. So in whatever papers that I have written, I normally will do a lot of citations. So in my reference list, always have a bunch of articles, reference articles over there. So I will just base on that and try to check the theme. Okay, so this is the way I choose the journal. No problems. Okay. So a fun mentioned that you are not really familiar with the process. Why we shouldn't submit paper to 2 different journals, as I mentioned. Okay, this is about ethical issue. What we should do is, one paper should be at the same time submit to only 1 journal outlet. Unless if that journal editor already rejected your paper, then only you are able to send to another journal. This is about ethical issue. Okay, and you don't feel that they won't know. I try to do it quietly. I send this paper to 2 different journals at the same time. Don't tell other people, yeah, I do that. You feel that they don't know, but you don't forget. Once they check using some tools, let's say Turnitin tools, cross-checking tools, they will be able to find out. So don't risk yourself. Don't risk yourself, okay? If you want to stay in academic life for long, don't do that. Lacey, your questions about which finance discipline journal would I recommend you to submit the conceptual paper? Okay, Number one, you have to look at, the quality of the papers that you have written, okay? Number two, you have to refer to your reference list there. Which journal actually you already cited. When you cite their paper, definitely you have read their paper, correct? When you read their paper, then you will notice what type of approach are they using. Are they using empirical test approach? Are they using quantitative, qualitative, or what? Or are they purely just talk about conceptual model? Or are they just talking about meta-analysis? Okay, so from there you are able to identify, oh, this journal actually also accepts conceptual paper only. It is very rare, very rare. You send your journal article to somewhere, to a journal that you do not cite that paper. Very rare. Okay. No problem. Sometimes just make it a practice, make it a habit, like try to write a little bit a day, okay? A little a day, then you are able to get the whole paper someday. And you don't have to aim too high if you are still an early career researcher. Okay, for example, if you just graduated from a PhD study not long ago, let's say just in a year or within 5 years, it's okay, doesn't matter. Don't have to straight away aim for tier A. No need. You can start from tier B, tier C, does not really matter. Because like what I have shared with you just now, I mentioned that sometimes when I send my papers to tier B, I receive more feedback compared to if I send to tier A. This is how I learned initially. While I was early career researcher, I don't know their ranking at all. I don't really care about the ranking at the time. While I work in MMU, okay? At that time, MMU only asked us, okay, you just publish. They look at quantity. Who cares about quality at the time? Okay, so then I don't even care about, okay, whether this paper, this journal is ranked, unranked, or whatever. I just send. I send based on the team. Okay, at the time, I send based on the team. If team is matching, I try. Right? But nowadays, MMU, you already come up with the list. You know very, very well which list you should follow, or at least scopus that you have to follow. So in that case, you check from the scopus list. What is your target? Your target is get it published. If MMU require you to publish in high tier journal, then it must have a number, yes or no? How many papers? How many tier A? How many tier A star? How many tier B? Or don't care about what is the rank, so long as it's under scopus, then they will accept it. If that is the case, then what you need to do, if I were you, I would just look at the team. If it is fit, if my paper is fit to this journal, I'll send. If it is under scopus, why not? But if you already have many tier B journals, then you aim for higher. Aim for tier A. But one tier A paper, you want to get it accepted, it takes time. The revision could be 2 rounds, could be 3 rounds. It could be after 3 rounds, got a rejection. Could be, right? So depends on what you want. Aim high is always good. Prof. Tan, I'm done.
Okay. Thanks so much. I believe all of us learned a lot from you today, including okay, especially when you mentioned that if we aim for publishing for one journal this year, right? So we better have a few reserve, I would say, rather than just get ready one paper and we might end up at the end of the year do not have any paper published.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yes.
Oh. All right, so thanks so much for the very insightful presentation. Okay, and thanks for those who are still with us. So we are about to start our second slot of the session today. Okay. All right. So Dr. Phoon shared with us on how to reduce our possibility to get the test rejection. Okay, so that is very useful, especially for the researchers, either we are experienced or not experienced, right? So, and the second part of the talk, we will have our MMU colleagues, Associate Professor Dr. Ong Hui Boon from the FOM to share with us on why publish with a new journal. So for your information, Dr. Ong is a chief editor of the MMU Press Journal, iJomfa. Okay, so what is this iJomfa? Do allow me to spend maybe 1 or 2 seconds to go through with you on what are the current MMU Press Journal we have. Okay, so I believe that many of you are from different disciplines. So I saw that some of you are from engineering, in IT, and social science, creative multimedia, language, and so on. So do allow me to share with you some of the MMU Press journals. Okay, so if you are from the engineering, technology, and so on, so we could see that actually we do have the Journal of Engineering Technology and Applied Physics. Okay, so you can basically scan on the QR code and to see on what are the scopes, suitable, is it suitable for your study, and you can try to contact our chief editor on the possible publication, right? So apart from this JETAP, so we do have another journals, iJoras. Okay, so if you are interested, again, scan on the QR code, right? So it will be lead you to the journaling, and you will be able to see on the scope. So is it fit to the theme, right? Like what mentioned by Dr. Phoon again, right? So how about social science? Do we have the opportunity to publish? So we do have an International Journal of Creative Multimedia, right? So if you are from the FCM, okay, so you can explore this journal. Okay, so that is our Dr. Ong. Okay, so she is the chief editor for the International Journal of Management, Finance, and Accounting. Okay, so want to explore more opportunities in publishing this in this iJomfa? So please scan the QR code as well. Right. So we do have a law discipline, Asian Journals of the Law and Policy. Okay, and Dr. Su is our chief editor, and we do have Dr. Zhao from the FOB. She's an editor-in-chief for the journal so-called Issues and Perspective in Business and Social Science. So basically, these are the 6 existing journals in MMU Press. All right. So Dr. Ong is going to share with you all on why publish with a new journal, right? So Dr. Ong is one of my very good colleagues. I respect her from various perspectives. She is actually somehow, I always treat her as a mentor. Okay, so we will see how she's going to deliver to us why we need to publish with a new journal. Okay, before that, we would like to special thing to Prof. Hairo, our VP R&I English, to spend his time with us this morning as well. So Dr. Ong, can I pass the floor to you now?
Thank you, Dr. Tan, for the kind introduction. Right, so welcome to this sharing session on why publish in a new journal, which is iJomfa, right? I'll try my best to convince you to publish with us, basically. So, okay, let me share with you my slide. It is going to be a short talk on publishing with International Journal of Management, Finance and Accounting, IJOMFA, right? This is one of the journal that is under the that is published under the MMU Press MMU, right? So we are very new, just like all other journals that have been introduced by Dr. Tan just now. Okay, so unlike what you have listened to Dr. Poon, you know, the challenges in publishing in high-tier journals, things to look for. So here I would like to encourage you to also publish in new journals like IJOMFA, right? Not only IJOMFA, maybe other new journals also, if you think the journal is a good journal and it will help you being cited, right? So one of the criteria to get your to get the institution reach a higher ranking is basically the academics recognition and citation. So getting cited is one reason, right? So let's get to IJOMFA first. So why publish with IJOMFA, right? So this is IJOMFA, International Journal of Management, Finance and Accounting. So let me share with you the website, right? So you can click on this website to actually check our journal out, right? So our journal is here online. Okay, so this is IJOMFA. So in our website, basically you can look at what we look for. So in IJOMFA, we are looking for empirical papers, manuscript, either in any business study, management, finance, financial economics, accounting, as well as case studies, right? We are also going for case studies. So we only have one issue at the moment, which is we published in August. So if you just click on the image here, or even here, financial economics, you will be sent to these two papers, right? That is published our first issue. So at the moment, we are compiling and also trying to get the second issue out. So as and when the paper is being accepted, I will be publishing it, putting it live online under upcoming articles. So by February, then I will update this as a second issue, right? So for this second issue, we're accepting papers at the moment. So if you have papers, you can send to us. And we are in the pipeline of getting case studies published under this issue as well. So for each issue, we will have 3 headings, either financial economics, accounting, or management. So under management, or even some marketing papers also can be embedded under management or business studies, right? And depending on the submission, so the issues will be published under these few headlines, right? So this is IJOMFA. Besides IJOMFA, of course, Dr. Tan just now have shown a few other journals, like we have here JTAB, right? So you can just scan the QR code, then you will be going to JTAB, or even other journals like IJORAS here, right? So they have a similar information where you can click the about journals and also their criteria. Okay, so this is the basic information, the fundamentals of some of the journals that we have in MMU Press, right? So we publish biannually, August and February. So because the first issue was published last August, so the next issue should be out in February. So we are collecting the papers. So why IJOMFA, right? So we have, I have come up with 3 or maybe one more, four reasons why you should be publishing with IJOMFA, right? The first one is we are new but serious. That means we do not want to remain unindexed journal, right? We are working towards getting indexed in MySite as well as Scopus. As you have seen just now, when you go to the website, you will see that IJOMFA is registered under My Journal. So that is the first step to get indexed, right? So don't get mistaken. My Journal is just a registration with the National Library, right? So you get yourself registered, then only you work towards getting indexed in MySite, and then go for Scopus. So this is why you should publish with us, right? So being new, but we are working towards getting index. So from day one, we will be stringent in our review and make sure that the paper that you publish with us are of Scopus quality papers, right? If not Scopus, but close to Scopus quality. That means we don't publish any journals that is being sent to us. We will review your papers, make sure your papers are improved before it's published, right? We don't just publish every papers that is sent to us, right? The second one is we have dedicated reviewers. If you go to the IJOMFA website, maybe I can share with you also the websites to look at the reviewer team, right? Okay. So under IJOMFA site, you will see editorial team, right? So of course, I'm the editor, chief editor here. We have co-editors of the different areas of specialization, and we have our editorial board, right? So each reviewers, right? Here are specialized in their areas of studies, right? So as and when we find that there are capable and available reviewers, we can also appoint and add them in. So probably I'll send an invitation to Dr. Poon later, see if she's interested to join our editorial reviewer team, right? So
this no problem. Looking forward.
yeah. So being the in this, I make sure that the reviewers here are of different discipline, right? So if we get papers from this different discipline, then we have reviewers to review in that area, right? So the next step is in case, right, if we have a lot of papers, then we can consider or authors, those who submitted, to also be reviewers, because I think most top journals also do that. But at the moment, because we only have the first issue, I think the first and second year probably is a bit difficult to get authors to review. We will stick to this reviewing system first, get our reviewer board to review the papers, right? So these are the reviewer team, right? So you can go online, click on the link and have a look of our reviewer board. Okay. Okay, so this, since we have a dedicated reviewer board, right? The reviewers really take time to look at every papers. Because we are new, we don't have many submission. So we have a lot of time to look at each and every submission to painstakingly review the paper and give you feedback to improve your paper. So because of that, you are able to improve, revise, and get your paper published, right? So reviewers will be very detailed and explain to you, okay, this is incorrect, the error is done here, so please correct it in a way that it is more convincing that the reader can understand. Probably you should write like that. So we have reviewers that are able to help improve your writing skills. So that is another reason why you should publish with us, right? Because we have limited submission at the moment, okay? And the third one is it's an avenue to publish your students' work, right? So in Faculty of Management, FOM, we have FYP students in financial engineering as well as economics. So I saw a few economics students here. So whatever FYP that you done, or subjects like seminar in analytical economics, right? So you can actually use this as an outlet to publish your work, because you submit as an assignment. Why not make it into a more useful and a good way to communicate your idea, right? Basically, doing research is just how you want to communicate your idea. Make sure that others hear you out, right? So this is a way to communicate. So if you have a good final year project, students, final year project, you just don't basically keep it in sort of a submission and assignment, and that's it, right? Just leave it there or under your desk, why not improve it and publish it in eJongfa, right? So okay, so I would like to share with you this particular case where I published my students' final year project, right? So let me share with you at the site itself to show you the what the real thing looks like, right? Okay, so if you want, you can look at this. Okay, so this is a Springer. Oops. This is a Springer publication, Financial Innovation, right? So in this paper, I published, as you can see, it is published in 2016, right? So it is my final year project student and myself. So I put my final year project student's name first because the idea on this FYP was his idea, right? He was thinking of how developed economies use cashless payment to stimulate economic activity, right? So of course, I supervised him and get this paper, his final year project done. So you yourself will know which final year project is publishable, right? So I know this paper it's worth publish during those time because it's quite a new idea, and the student is serious in doing his final year project, right? So this student basically come and see me every other day of the week, right? So if you have student that is so passionate in research, that meet you up, ask you question, and you basically know the research is going to be a good one, because he is reading it, every single thing, he's asking your opinion, and then doing the write-up and research. So if you have this type of final year project, it is worth being published in this journal. So why I give this as example? Because if you look at financial innovation, when I first published in this journal, it is unindexed journal. This journal is nobody like eJongfa, right? So, but if you check it out today, you will find that this journal is Scopus rated, right? And if you check it, is under economics, right? It is ranked as Q1 paper, right? So when I published in this journal, it was unindexed. So that's why you should consider publishing with eJomfa, because you never know when and where we will go to, right? So the chances of being cited is also very high, because this journal is also open access, right? So it's open access. It has this paper, as you see, it has 8 citations. So it's not very well cited, but it is still cited because it is not 100% work by myself. It is a collaboration with my student, right? So I do half the work and the student did the other half, right? But of course, when you want to publish a work or writing by student, you need to put in 50% of the work as well, right? It is not cut, reduce the number of words and then just submit. Publishing a student work, you need to be very careful. You have to rewrite in a way that it is acceptable and publishable in journals, right? Writing skill is important when you want to publish in journals. Okay, so I think Dr. Poon have elaborated a lot on writing skills just now. So, so this is basically what I want to share with you is publishing in new journal like financial innovation, right? This is my personal experience. Okay. So like financial innovation, which is published by Stranger, right? eJomfa is published by MMU Press. We are also open access. Open access means it's visible, right? So whatever paper that is published in eJomfa, you can get the full paper. People can read your papers, right? So other researchers, probably researchers from less developed countries, researchers that have similar issues, they can easily access your paper, and basically they can cite your paper because it is of similar problem, right? So after that said, right, some less or poorer countries researchers, they may not be able to gain access to high-ranking journals, which you need to subscribe. So publishing in open access journal like eJomfa enable people to read your work, right? And you are able to communicate your ideas to others, okay? And authors can also share what they have written with other researchers. So this will improve visibility. People can get access to your papers, and you might get citation as well. Citation will improve your H index and also the university's ranking, basically. Okay. So after that said, we are new, right? But we are not sloppy. We don't accept any Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? So we have these 3 basic criteria. Of course, the long list of requirements, you can check it out in our website, but this one is very important, right? So when you publish a final year project or students' work, you need to be careful. Make sure your similarity index is not more than 10%, right? So you need to check this out, return it in, and so on. Okay, to make sure it's less than 10%. But we are following the publication declaration, right? I think we can exclude words, exclude less than 5 words matching, right? So that one makes it easier to meet this criteria, not more than 10%, right? So basically you check your sentence. If there is more than 5 words, then you just replace the words used in your sentence, and you will not have that similarity index matched, right? We publish research notes, right? Case studies and full research papers. We do not accept conceptual framework papers, right? So if basically, I think that if you have a good conceptual framework understanding, you should proceed to collect data and do some empirical findings, and therefore write a full, more impactful paper, right? And publish with us or even other journals, right? In IJOMFA, at the moment, we don't accept conceptual papers, okay? The third thing to be aware of is your English in writing, right? Like Dr. Poon explained earlier, when you write, you have to be careful of your team, you know, she has explained on how to write a good high index journal, okay? And also to accept any constructive criticism from reviewers, right? But one criticism which I find it very, very hard to take is when I get feedback from reviewers that say that I do not write like a native speaker, right? I have that feedback before. And basically, I can tell you that I can't write like native speaker because I am not a native speaker, right? So after that said, I think we all should write in a correct grammatical sentences in our manuscript, right? Recall what you were being taught in school. I think our writing skill all boils down to the fundamentals that we have learned in school on how to write. So learn how to write nested arguments in your write-up, right? You state your point and then you need to elaborate and write in basically a full sentence, full correct sentence, and don't write some sentences that is not complete, right? So you need to check your English. You'll be surprised, not only students cannot write well, some, or should I say, many academics can't write well either, right? So in MMU Press, in IJOMFA, we do not have a copy editor. So basically, I am the editor, website manager, as well as copy editor, right? So please write in proper English. What I can say is the basic check for your write-up is you just go to grammarly.com to check your basic grammar. Then you go and check your sentence structure, and then you can check the flow of writing. Because to check your English, actually there are two parts. One is the grammar, the English itself. The second one is the content that you're writing, using the right word to describe what you're saying. So you have to check these two well, right? Most writers forget one or the other, right? You need to check both. You need to check the English and the flow, and also the content. Checking content and English, it's two different checking. So your write-up, you have to go through at least 2 or 3 times before submission. So that is basically what you should do when you write a journal, right? So for IJOMFA, you need to do that because our reviewers will actually comment on that, right? Okay, so IJOMFA needs all your support, basically. We are new and we need a submission. from all of you. Okay, so this is the basically the website for us. So they are specializing in focusing in different area. So probably after listening to the points that I've given you, I hope that you will submit to us, which is on financial economics, management, and accounting, right? Or even if you want to submit to the business and social science paper, the chief editor is Dr. Zhao, right? You also can do that, right? As for me, I think I can't submit to my own journal. So probably if I have final year project papers, I will submit to Dr. Zhao's paper, right? So that's it for sharing on why publish in an unindexed journal like eJomfa. So I'll take some questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Ong. Questions from the floor? Yeah, Dr. Ong, I think we have one question.
Amirul,
Yeah.
during check the SI, should I include or exclude the tables and figures and any extra suggestions? So probably your tables and figures, probably you should exclude it, right? Because there are certain common terms in your tables and figures, you know, especially the heading, just like unit root for something. So it may have some similarity index. But for eJomfa, if it is less than 5 words, you can exclude that, right? Kazi, I am Dr. Ong, not Prof. Ong, right? The postgraduate students are quite interested to publish, okay? Potential prospect for high rank such as Scopus Q1 near future, but the issue is MMU itself will not recognize the work as our graduation requirement if we publish here, as most of these are not Scopus index. All right. So also not under, okay. All right, so in your thesis itself, right? If you say that you are doing an MBA final year project, then you should consider us eJomfa. So because it is a final year project, right? If you are talking about, if you are talking about your MPhil, PhD, DBA, right? You need to publish your main findings, right? You should publish in Q1, 2, or 3. I think for MPhil, right? PhD or DBA, I think you should go for Q1 and 2, right? If you have additional information, right, or new findings on a measurement of certain variables, contribution, a small contribution, you can also do a sub-paper and publish with us. But of course, to be able to write a good paper, that one depending on your writing skill, right? A small issue can be written into a very interesting paper through your writing skill. So to be able to write good, you need to write a lot of papers, right? Then you will improve in writing. Okay, so that was Kazi's question. And Fatih, can we please have the presentation record? Asked Dr. Tan. Yes, Dr. Tan said yes. To be able to write well, you need to write, right? So you can practice writing with eJomfa, because our reviewers give you very detailed response, okay? Q1 papers, you may not even pass through the front door sometimes, like what Dr. Poon and Dr. Tan has explain. Sometimes you don't even pass through the front door. So to pass through the front door, you have to write a good introduction and abstract. If you cannot write well, that two things which editors will read first, then you will not be able to pass through the front door. I have not published in very high-ranking journal before, right? But I am proud to say that all my papers published so far are written by myself, right? I have not gotten any copy editorial help before, right? So doesn't mean that non-native speaking writers cannot write. We can write, but we have to be very careful, and we have to write and rewrite it before we submit. Your teachers, your English teachers have taught you well. It's just that you have not practiced it. So if you really reflect back what you have learned previously on how to write, I'm sure you can write very good papers. Okay. One avenue to practice your writing is to publish with Emerald, right? I like to publish with Emerald because it is very structured and it helps me to write in a very focused way, right? So for Kazi, you want to get clearance, Q1, 2, and 3. Basically, in Emerald, they have Q1, 2, and 3. After that, you can graduate from Emerald and start publishing with Science Direct. Any other questions? For this semester, right, I am asking my seminar students to publish because I'm giving them assignments. So if your program have assignment from subject like seminar, right? In economics, we have seminar in analytical economics. In finance, we also have seminar in finance. So in seminar, we look at different research in analytical economics. So part of the assignment is the end of the semester, they have to produce a journal article and need to submit to a journal, right? Whether accepted, okay, that's beside the point, but every student will need to submit, right? So Wei Xian here and many others are here, so you need to submit. So one avenue is Ijomfa. So this is one way to promote MMU Press. So if we don't help ourselves, who will, right? So we need help from students, from academics, right? And from our friends. I think there's no more questions, right? So I pass back the floor to Dr. Tan.
Thanks, Dr. Ong. Right, so I believe again we learned a lot from both our speakers today, Dr. Poon and Dr. Ong. Right, so for the PG student, let's aim for the Scopus. Okay, so if we do not aim high, so we will never learn. Right, so of course it might be very painful to get a rejection, but no worry. Right, one day you will success. Okay, so again, I would like to thank all of you to spending your valuable morning with us, 2 hours. Okay, so before we end our session, so please note that all the information will be shared with you. Please don't forget to get the attendance done, right? Because all the slides will be shared with you after the talk. Okay, so next upcoming, we have another case writing webinar. So if you aim to publish a case writing, like what either in the Dr. Ong's journal, so-called the Izongfa, in which we have a special session, so you are welcome to know more about this case writing as well. Okay, so the talk will be shared by Associate Professor Dr. Farzana, a very well-known researcher and a very excellent researcher in writing the case studies from the UTM. Okay, so I hope to see you all in the next sharing session again. All right, thanks very much and have a good day ahead. Goodbye.
Thank you.